What we're going to be going over in today's video is a scalable intervention for static stretching of the hip flexor compartment. What you want to do before you get this stretch started is to find your posterior pelvic tilt, or what we call a tail tucking position. When the hip flexors are tight, it tends to pull you into anterior pelvic tilt. What we want to do for this stretch to maintain throughout is to actually tuck the tail underneath of you. Now, this is not a leaning back. This axis of rotation just happens at the hips here. You want to maintain this tucked tail position throughout the entire stretch. What you're going to want to do is to take a knee in a half kneeling position like so. You always want to start with the knee underneath of your hip. At this point, this is where you engage that posterior pelvic tilt. Now, it's very important you keep the rib cage tucked down as well as tucking the tail. If you flare the rib cage, this will disengage the stretch. Keep the rib cage tucked, keep the tail tucked. Now, you want to pretend like someone's got a rope tied around the front of your belt and they're pulling your hip straight forward. Now, there are three major muscle compartments through here that'll be stretched. You will likely feel this in the one that you need it the most. One is deep in the abdomen, in the front of the hip. The other goes from the front of the hip down to the knee. So this is the beginning of the scale. To scale this up, to get a little bit more high impact stretch, what you want to do is actually elevate the foot behind you. So on the step behind me, you have an elevated surface. This is where you would put your foot. Now you want to try to walk that knee back to the step as much as you can. From here, you may have to sit back into the heel a little bit before you tuck the tail. But again, vitally important to tuck the tail, keep the rib cage depressed, and then come forward in the hip here. This will likely hit more of the rectus femoris, or more in the front of the thigh here, but also maintain this position. Try to find your barrier here and hold for at least 30 seconds. The third scale of the intervention would be to raise the arm up while keeping the rib cage down and leaning the torso away. Now notice I'm not engaging any rib flaring here because that will disengage the stretch. Keep the ribs down while keeping the arm up. Lean away from the side that you're stretching. And this will complete our hip flexor stretch.